Hello, children. Good morning. In this last session on the chapter Deep Water of Flamingo, we are going to discuss questions and answers, and at the end, the assignments on this chapter Deep Water. This year, literature section in board examination is for 40 marks. Last year, 30 marks were allotted for literature section. There are only 5 lessons this year. Last year in literature you had 8 lessons in both Flamingo as well as Vistas. But this year we have 5 lessons from Flamingo and 5 lessons from Vistas besides poems. So less portion. So definitely weightage for every lesson will be more. Therefore, every lesson is a very important from examination point of view. There are going to be short answer type questions and long answer type questions. At the beginning, let's take up short answer type questions. Now let us take up the first question. This is a short answer type question. Question number 1. Which two incidents in Douglas' early life made him scared of water? When Douglas was 3 or 4 years old, his father took him to a beach in California. There he was knocked down by strong waves. He was almost buried underwater and got breathless. Though he hung on to his father, he was quite frightened. Secondly, when Douglas was 10 or 11, a big bully of a boy tossed him into the deep end of the YMCA pool. He could not come to the surface in spite of all his efforts and became panicky. These two incidents made Douglas scared of water. You have to write short answer for this question. If it's 6 marks question, then you have to write in detail. But here you have to just mention about two incidents that developed fear of water in William Douglas. Question number 2. Why did Douglas prefer to go to YMCA swimming pool to learn swimming? Which factors made Douglas to decide in favor of YMCA pool? According to Douglas, the YMCA pool was safer compared to the Yakima River. The river was quite deep and there were several cases of drowning reported about it. As against the uncertain depth of the river, the pool was only 2 or 3 feet deep at the shallow end. Though its depth was about 9 feet at the deeper end, yet the drop was gradual and Douglas could rely on it. So why it was safer? Because Yakima River was quite treacherous and there were many cases of drowning in that particular river. So therefore, Douglas prefers to go to YMCA swimming pool because it was quite safe. Question number 3. What were the series of emotions and fears that Douglas experienced when he was thrown into the pool? Here, the incident of misadventure. When Douglas was thrown into the pool by the bruiser, he did not lose heart and planned to push himself up with all his force. He thought that once he came to the surface, he would paddle to the edge of the pool. Thrice he tried to come to the surface, but unfortunately his strategy did not work and terror gripped him. His lungs were ready to burst. He was breathless and instead of air sucked water. This was before learning swimming. He had a plan, but that plan did not work. Let's go to question number 4. How did the swimming instructor build a swimmer out of Douglas? How did the instructor turn Douglas into a swimmer? The instructor adopted a systematic method to turn Douglas into a swimmer. He first made Douglas shed his initial fear of water by making him cross a pool suspended by a rope attached to a pulley. The instructor held the other end of the rope and relaxed and tightened it from time to time. Then he taught the narrator to breathe while swimming and finally the leg movements and other strokes. So he built phase by phase. Let's go to question number 5. How did Douglas make sure that he conquered the old terror? Terror means fear. After the instructor had trained Douglas in the art of swimming, Douglas was still not sure of himself. He felt tiny vestiges, tiny, very small vestiges, remains of the fear now and then. So he went to Lake Wentworth and swam. Once when terror returned, he challenged it and did not let it overcome him. Finally, Douglas went to the warm lake. There he swam all alone, and the fear didn't return to haunt him again. Question number 6. What efforts did Douglas make to get over his fear of water? After several individual attempts to overcome his fear, Douglas finally engaged an instructor. The instructor built a swimmer out of him, but Douglas was not sure. To confirm that the terror would not strike him when he was swimming alone, Douglas decided to go to Lake Wentworth in New Hampshire. At last, he made his terror fly away by swimming across the warm lake. Question number 7. Why was Douglas determined to get over his fear of water? The misadventure of having a near drowning experience left a deep mark on Douglas' mind. So it haunted him. The phobia of water hampered all his joys of enjoying different water sports like fishing, canoeing, boating, and swimming. He did not want to live with this handicap and so was determined to overcome his fear of water. Question number 8. What did Douglas experience when he went down to the bottom of the pool for the first time? When the author was going down to the bottom of the pool for the first time, those 9 feet felt almost like 90 feet. His lungs were ready to burst, but somehow he summoned, that is, he gathered all his strength and sprang upwards, hoping to reach the surface. But he didn't pop up to the surface like a cock, as he had imagined. When he opened his eyes, he saw nothing but water. His hands, too, grabbed only water. Question number 9. Why did Douglas go to Lake Wentworth in New Hampshire? Douglas was not satisfied with his practice, so he decided to go to Lake Wentworth. There, when he was swimming in the middle of the lake, only once did the terror return, but he finally overcame it, and it made him feel better. Question number 10. When Douglas realized that he was sinking, how did he plan to save himself? When a big boy threw Douglas into the water, he went straight down. He was completely frightened. Still, he did not lose his wits and thought of a strategy to make a big jump when his feet touched the bottom, so that he could reach the surface. He even thought that he would lie flat on the surface and finally paddle to the edge of the pool. With this, we have come to the end of the short type of questions. Now we are going to study long answer type questions. These questions are very important. Though there will be option for this question, you must study in detail these questions because these questions have more weightage. Each question carries 6 marks. So there will be one question on flamingo. So study well all these questions which are of essay type questions. So shall we go ahead? Question number 1. I crossed to oblivion and the curtain of life fell. What was the incident which nearly killed Douglas and developed in him a strong aversion to water? The incident which nearly killed Douglas occurred when he was 10 or 11 years old. He had decided to learn swimming at the YMCA pool and thus got rid of his fear of water. One morning, when he was alone at the pool, waiting for this, a big bully of a boy tossed him into the deep end of the pool. Though he had planned a strategy to save himself as he went down, his plan did not work. He went down to the bottom and became panicky. Thrice he struggled hard to come to the surface, but failed each time. He was almost drowned in the pool. He lost his consciousness and felt that he would die. Though he was ultimately saved, this misadventure developed in him a strong aversion to water. So here, what was the incident which nearly killed? So this is dealing with misadventure that had developed a strong aversion, that is strong aversion, fear to water. Aversion is dislike, but here strong fear to water. Question number 2. Douglas fully realized the truth of Roosevelt's statement. All we have to fear is fear itself. How does this realization help him brush aside his fear and become an expert swimmer? Who was Roosevelt? President of America. And what was his statement? All we have to fear is fear itself. Douglas had experienced both the sensation of dying and the terror that the fear of death can cause. Strong will, power, determination, courage, and toil as well as honest labor won over all his terrors and fears. The will to live brushed aside all his fears. In reality, all our fears are only psychological and can be easily won over if we can control our mind. If there's a will, there's a way. This realization makes Douglas resolve to learn swimming by engaging an instructor. So he hires an instructor. This instructor, piece by piece, built Douglas into a swimmer. So he has built a swimmer in him piece by piece, phases by phases. However, his first step was to drive away Douglas' fear of water before training him in swimming techniques. When Douglas tried and swam the length of the pool up and down, small traces, that is, vestiges of his old terror of water would return. So he went to Lake Wentworth, dived at Triggs Island, and swam into 2 miles across the lake to Stampede Island. Finally, he was certain that he had conquered his fear of water. Question number 3. Desire, determination, and diligence led to success. Explain the value of these qualities in the light of Douglas' experience in deep water. The terror of water followed Douglas wherever he went. To get rid of it, he made a strong determination. He decided to overcome his fear through his will. He engaged an instructor who would perfect him in swimming. The instructor first helped him to drive away his fear and then gave him many exercises besides teaching him to excel and inhale in water. The practice went on for months together, during which his fear came back to haunt him, but his desire and firm will made him persist in his efforts. It was only through sheer determination and diligence that Douglas could only counter his terror, but also become an expert swimmer. He swam across and back lakes to ensure that his fear of water did not return. He had now completely lost his fear. His desire, determination, and diligence succeeded in banishing his fear of water. This is a very important question. How did Douglas develop an aversion to water? Or there was terror in my heart at the overpowering forces of the waves. When did Douglas start fearing water? Which experience had further strengthened its hold on his mind and personality? Douglas developed an aversion to water in his early childhood when he was 3 or 4 years old, when his father took him to a beach in California. The waves knocked him down and swept over him. He was buried in water. He was frightened, but his father was laughing. Perhaps this was the moment his fear of water took root inside his mind. Further, when Douglas was 10 or 11 years old, he decided to learn to swim and went to the YMCA pool. Here an incident took place that finally established his aversion to water as a big fear. One day, when Douglas was alone at the pool, sitting on the edge and waiting for others to come, a big boy, bruiser of 18 years old, threw him into the deep end of the pool. What followed was a nightmarish experience for him. Douglas tried very hard and applied all his knowledge to come to the surface of the water, but to no avail. Somehow he was saved. Thus, after this fearful incident, his fear of water got implanted in his heart and mind permanently. Question number 5. How did the instructor make Douglas a good swimmer? To overcome his fear of water, Douglas finally decided to get an instructor to learn swimming. The instructor started working with him 5 days a week, an hour each day. The instructor put a belt around Douglas. A rope was attached to the belt that went through a pulley that ran on an overhead cable. The instructor held on to the end of the rope and along with Douglas went back and forth across the pool hour after hour, day after day, week after week. On each trip across the pool, a bit of panic seized Douglas. It took almost 3 months before the tension reduced. Then the instructor taught him to put his face under the water and exhale and to raise his nose and inhale. For weeks, his instructor made him kick with his legs until he was able to command his legs at his will. In this way, piece by piece, his instructor made Douglas a swimmer. When Douglas perfected each piece, his instructor put them together into an integrated one. As a result, in nearly 6 months, Douglas was able to swim, dive, crawl, and so on. Assignment on this lesson. There are two questions which are very important. How did William Douglas develop fear of water? And how did William Douglas overcome fear of water? So you write answers for both these questions. Write the incidents that developed fear of water in William Douglas. How did Douglas overcome fear of water? This we have come to the end of the session on deep water, which is very important lesson that teaches us lessons of life. Thank you.